6 state championships handed out in the state of New Jersey last week. 5.5 of them probably could be qualified as upsets. And for the 3rd week in a row, our #1 team in the New Jersey poll and in the Tri-State poll loses. So much to sort out on this week's edition of Around the Diamond. I am your host, Kevin Devaney Jr., MSGVarsity.com, MSG Varsity Channel 614 Baseball Special, the New Jersey edition. And we're going to bring in our expert, Gregg Lerner, from his home in Toms River, New Jersey. Greg, still looks like your head has finally stopped spinning from this past weekend's state championships. A wild weekend, to say the least, wasn't it, Greg?
I think we can stop labeling me as an expert from now on. just a prognosticator, a poor guesser. I don't know how we're going to label me, but expert, I think that's out the window, pal.
Nah, I mean, listen, you're not alone. I don't think you weren't the only one caught by surprise by some of these results of state championships this past weekend. And I think in some ways in the baseball season, that's, again, we say it every week. That's what baseball is. It's about who's the best team playing it. I think we've learned that what happens in the middle of June really has nothing to do with what we saw in April. And we just basically have to just eliminate April from now on and make our rankings and assumptions based on the end of May and June. I think that's basically what we've been reduced to here. So let's just jump right in and start with Group 4, the state championship. Roxbury, they were the hottest team in the state of New Jersey by most accounts, entering Saturday's championship against Jackson, playing for the Group 4 state championship. And it was the nail-biter. It was the pitching matchup we expected it to be. And as you said, Brandon Janofsky went out there and was absolutely masterful. 7 strikeouts, took a no-hitter into the 7th inning. Mike Patrizio, RBI double, Joe DeMeo, an RBI triple, and a 2-0 Jackson win. The start of our upsets here, Greg. Did Roxbury run out of gas? We'll talk about that in a second. But Jackson, the way they played, and you saw them peaking at the right time.
Yeah, Roxbury ran into Brandon Janofsky is what Roxbury ran into. Only a junior, Kev, but has the poise and composure of probably a college senior. Frank Malta, the coach at Jackson, so widely regarded and respected as a really good baseball man. He had told me at the beginning of the season that he had never coached anyone with the baseball instinct that Brandon Janofsky has.
Wow.
On Saturday, he stepped on the biggest stage and performed as well as you possibly can. Made a slight adjustment. He hit a batter in the 2nd inning, so he had a guy on base. He worked from the stretch. He got real comfortable in the stretch. He never left the stretch, wow. And from that point forward, just lights out. And the thing is this, Kev. Nick Busby got to start for Roxbury. He pitched great. Timmy Pillen came in, pitched the last 2 innings. He pitched great. It was a 2-0 game. It was 1 inning, 3 extra base hits that created 2 runs for the Jaguars, and that's all that Brandon needed from there on out. His, like Greg Trotter, the Roxbury coach, mentioned after the game, his slider was filthy, and Brandon's not a big kid. Okay, about 5'8", 5'9", probably about 155, 160, soaking wet. Mm-hmm. But his velocity sneaks up on you. The movement on his pitches is nasty. And he's got a big game mentality about him. And Jackson was one of those teams that a lot of people wrote off because they had lost in the first round of the Shore Conference tournament. They lost in the semifinals of the Ocean County tournament. Yeah. So I think people were jumping off that bandwagon pretty quickly in late May. And then we saw what happened in the last 2 weeks. And that bandwagon was full on Saturday. There was no occupancy. There was no vacancies on that bus coming into Toms River North for that game on Saturday. And then Jaguars played like champions.
They did, and the final out there, we just saw it, and I love that play at third base. He gave up the first hit in the 7th inning. He gets out of it, ground ball at third base, and then the first baseman launches that ball in the air in a very cool celebration as Jackson celebrates their 2-0 win over Roxbury in the Group 4 state championship game. Afterwards, we spoke with a couple of the Jackson players about winning the title.
The mindset is just a lot of we focus on our offensive game and our defensive game throughout practice. Our offense has struggled all year long, so we really focused on that during practice. And today we just brought the juice, the JU Ice. That's what we call it.
Talk to me about that 4th inning, because that, to me, was the turning point.
Right, that 4th inning, after we came in and talked to our coaches, they told us to make adjustments, and we made those adjustments with Kyle getting on and then me getting that hit and then Joe getting that hit after, too. That's a big hit.
It was a defensive battle. It was a pitcher's duel in the beginning, and then you had that 4th inning. Going forward after that inning, what did that do for you?
It let me settle down and just take control of the game and
just let things come to me. I stopped trying to overthrow. The first couple innings I was struggling a little bit, made a couple of adjustments, and my team putting 2 runs on board, they knew that if they could put some runs on board, we'll probably win this game.
What does it mean to bring a state championship back to Jackson?
It feels great. It really does. This town deserves it. I don't think it's been at Jackson since 79, 72 maybe. It feels great.
So congrats to the state champions in Group 4, and that being Jackson and Brandon Janowski. A no-hitter into the 7th inning, gave up a single, got that final out. Doesn't matter. I don't think he cares about the no-hitter, the one-hitter, whatever he had. 7 strikeouts in the game, and a terrific performance by them. So, Greg, just wrapping up quickly for the Group 4. Timmy Pulveron could have basically been the co-host of our show the last 4 or 5 weeks. We felt like he was on this show every single week. Did they run out of gas? Did Roxbury just play too many big games and just you can't win all of them?
No, not at all, Kev. I don't believe so at all. Like I said, they ran into a hot pitcher, undefeated. You know, Janowski finishes the year 7-0. Listen, here's the backstory real fast on Janowski, Kev, so you got a point of reference here. You know, back in the day, in Little League times, he was a stud pitcher, okay? You know, if you're familiar with how Little League rolls, 12-year-olds are the ones who usually go to Williamsport. That's the year that, the Williamsport years as a 12-year-old. He was on the Little League team in Jackson as an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old. Was a nasty pitcher who nobody wanted to face, had some arm trouble, and shut it down for a few years. Just specifically concentrated on shortstop, where he is an amazing shortstop. Very, very technically sound defensively at shortstop. But got an itch to start pitching again last summer. Gradually got back on the mound, stretched himself out, was ready for the varsity year. His parents, Don and Corey Janowski, did not want him pitching anymore, but he kind of convinced them, as kids can do to their parents sometimes. And Don Janowski shared with me on Friday night before that state final, she walked into Brandon's room, and he had like a chest, so to speak, of all of his, mementos from his career.
Yeah. And
he was holding out to one of the baseballs that he had gotten from winning a game somewhere. And he was just reminiscing about, his glory days as a pitcher. And on Saturday, Kev, he revisited it and then some. It was an amazing performance by Brandon. Only a junior. He's coming back next year.
Say that is his glory day to this point, because he has a whole nother year ahead of him and a bright future as a pitcher. We move on now to the non-public A championship. You know, when I checked out the scores early on in the state tournament in Jersey, I said, oh, St. John Vianney won. I know, they know school pretty well, basketball season, and then they won again and again and again, and then here they are playing for a non-public A championship on Saturday against a team that we had ranked in the top 5 basically all season long, that being St. Joe's Regional. And they go out there and they knock them off 3-1, and an incredible run by St. John Vianney. A great pitching performance by Justin Chin, 5 strikeouts in 6 1/3 innings, only 1 walk and 5 hits. Anthony Levine had the big blow, a 2-run single in the 3rd inning, and they come away with a 3-1 win. Was this the biggest upset or the biggest surprise of the weekend, St. John Vianney?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
Because, if people weren't paying attention to Vianney over the last couple weeks, then shame on them. I mean, they had knocked off Gloucester Catholic, and prior to knocking off Gloucester Catholic, they beat Bishop Eustace down in Pennsauken 10-0.
Yeah.
Okay? They didn't squeeze out a win. They pummeled somebody that was widely regarded as one of the best teams in New Jersey. Then they take it one step further. They beat CBA, who was the Monmouth County and the Shore Conference Tournament champion. They beat them in the state tournament 13-9. Then they take out Gloucester Catholic, and I've told you, for people that aren't familiar with Gloucester Catholic, now they're a South Jersey team right outside of Philadelphia. They're probably the equivalent of what St. Anthony is in basketball in New Jersey. Probably the most recognizable program on a state and national prominence type level. And they go down and they knock them off, to win the South Jersey sectional. And then they play St. Joe's and they knock them off 3-1. Justin Chin was amazing. I mean, the kid was 10-0 this year, and the thing about Vianney that people should know is that this is a senior-laden program with some dynamite hitters, some proven guys, some veteran guys who seized the opportunity. And maybe this too, Kevin, I don't want to speak on their behalf, but when you got a senior cast and the end is near, you don't want any regrets when you graduate, when you move on. You don't want to spend the summer thinking, what if we had done this, what if we had done that? St. John Vianney Sr. stepped up and then some. put up great numbers, an incredible run, and they win a state championship. So you know how I feel, man. I don't believe in upsets. I don't like the word upset when it comes to baseball. So Devaney was 11th in our poll last week in New Jersey and just got on a great run.
Yeah, they're going to be run up the flagpole this week. I think the Gloucester, we had the show before the Gloucester Catholic semifinal game. That was when I said, oh boy, St. John Vianney is legit. They're for real. Was that win, do you think, bigger than, in some ways, bigger than the championship for them?
If anything, Kev, it probably just put a little more wind in the sails, maybe elevated their confidence to the highest possible level going into the state finals. They're a pretty good, how can I put it? I don't want to say they're cocky. They're not cocky. They're pretty sure of themselves. You know, they understand what their capabilities of. They understand the depth of their offense. They understand the wealth of their pitching, and they applied it all at the right time of the season. You know,
Yeah.
Some teams shoot for county tournaments. Some teams shoot for state tournament. They put it all together in a state tournament, and they've got a non-public A state champion to show for it.
And a state championship performance by Justin Chin. And when I watched those highlights, I couldn't believe the movement that the left-hander had on his fastball and then on his breaking pitches. He was tremendous, and we spoke to him afterwards.
It feels great. We were always the underdogs. Everyone doubted us, but we showed them. We're state champs now.
All right, so you were out in the dugout there late in the innings. Talk about what's going through your mind when you see that hit going to outfield. Evan makes that catch from right field.
It's definitely scary. It's a scary moment, but you know, we did what we had to do, and I had a lot of faith in Danny, and I had a lot of faith in Shin there.
Tell me what this feels like. You know, after coming in as the 8 seed, people, you know, you guys probably weren't supposed to win your last 2 or 3 games, and you guys to do this. What's that mean?
It feels great. It feels really good to know that we were the 8 seed. We were pretty much the underdog, and we pulled through. We did what we had to do. We had a lot of heart, and we had a lot of talent also. All these teams have talent, but I think we got a lot of heart compared to a lot of these guys.
Congratulations to St. John Vianney winning the non-public A championship. On the B side of the non-public state tournament in New Jersey, we had Hudson Catholic, and I think Hudson Catholic has been really one of the best stories of the season in New Jersey, and I think Gregg would agree. And trying to win their first ever state championship, and they turn to Brandon Pawlowski in the state championship game, and boy, Gregg, did he deliver a gem in the state final.
That's been his MO all year. You know, the thing with Hudson Catholic that people have to recognize is that in Hudson County this year, I think the 2 teams that really overshadowed them were Marist and St. Peter's. And then, you know, Marist gets knocked off in South Jersey B, kind of paves the way a little bit for Hudson Catholic to get a little bit of a moment for themselves on the Hudson County stage, and then they turn it into a statewide spotlight by winning, you know, non-public B. Was really impressed with the job that Brandon did. Very poised, pounds the strike zone, gets ahead, has multiple pitches. But the cool part about the Hawks was not only did they win their first state championship, which is awesome in its own right, but I love the way that, you know, they got on the board by manufacturing a run. You know, Mike Simone gets hit by a pitch, steals a base, they move him over to third, he scores on a wild pitch, and then, you know, the top of the rainbow blows off in the next inning when he scored 5 runs. And Victor Guzman, okay, how about this, Kev? Kid's batting 8th in the order. So, talking to him afterwards, talking to Coach Vasquez afterwards, who's a proud alumni of Hudson Catholic and even prouder now. And I was saying, no, man, he doesn't really strike me as an 8-hitter. He's 6'2", you can tell he's strong.
We just saw him bombing hits.
Yeah. We put him there because we think, and Alberto says, you know, I'm a former catcher. So I'm thinking to myself, 7, 8, 9 hitters, let's see if they can get a fastball by him. You know, and that's probably the way that, you know, maybe St. Joe's thought about Victor, and Victor made him pay. I'm telling you, Kev, he hit a ball in his first at-bat foul that, if you're familiar with Tom's River North, across Bay Avenue is Bay Lee Country Golf Club. I think he hit it out to the second hole. That's how long the foul ball was. And then the home run was absolutely a tracer into the woods. It looked like a jet fighter taking off from a flight deck.
So a 7-0 Hudson Catholic win. They beat St. Joe's in the non-public B championship. And as I said, Brandon Pawlowski, the right-hander, complete game, 2-hitter, 8 strikeouts. Victor Cruz hitting that 3-run homer that we saw as Gregg was just talking about it. And a great job by Hudson Catholic to go and win the non-Catholic B championship. Now we move on to the Group 3 final. Maybe the best baseball game of the weekend, I think, with Mainland taking on Mount Olive. Now, Mount Olive was a team that worked their way up the polls, climbing all season long, getting into the top 20 last week, and then coming up one game short of that state championship. Mainland knocking them off 5-3 in a game that had 2 ties, 3 lead changes. Just a good baseball game all around. Mount Olive just couldn't respond. They lose a tough one, 5-3. But a great season, I think, Greg, overall for Mount Olive, losing to a talented Mainland squad.
Oh, undoubtedly. The sad part for Mount Olive is that, they put together a 15-game winning streak.
Yeah.
And then your season ends with the loss. So the streak ends, you're hot, you're coming in. But Mainland was one of these teams that you want to talk about maybe one that comes out of nowhere. Mainland, I believe, was the 11th seed, okay, in the South Jersey section of Group 3. So, and then they put together a run. And I got to see Matt Tepedino pitch against Hamilton, who's their quote-unquote ace. And he pitched in the Group 3 state semifinals and got the win. So I give all the credit in the world to Mainland, but it doesn't take away a stitch from what Mount Olive did. I felt like over the course of the last month of the season, they probably were the hottest team when you really look at it, because they had won 15 in a row. Their only loss was to Roxbury, and then they went on that run thereafter. So, Jim McDermott's crew, outstanding year. The shortstop, Bobby Shannon, Chris Grillo, who's only a junior, who's a pitcher outfielder. They both were spectacular this year. Mount Olive has a lot to be proud of, winning a sectional title, getting to a state final. Like I said to Greg Trotter from Roxbury, there's a ton of teams that would kill to switch places with those teams, even if they lost in a group final, just to be on that stage, to be in that atmosphere, that climate for a state final. Mount Olive's got nothing at all to be ashamed of.
This was a 2-2 game going into the 6th inning. Mainland scored twice, take the lead, and as I said, Mount Olive just couldn't muster the offense at the end of this one. Very good baseball game. Mainland wins it 5-3 to claim a Group 3 state championship over Mount Olive. And we're going to see where Mount Olive falls in the state poll. We're going to see where a lot of teams in New Jersey fall in that state poll, because we got a lot of movement. And when you sent me your New Jersey poll, I kind of scratched my head. And I couldn't argue with what you did. We'll talk about that later after we talk about the Group 2 and Group 1 championship. But start formulating your excuses now, Greg, because you have about a minute and a half, 2 minutes before we start talking about that. We go down to the Group 2 championship game, and Bernard storming into the Group 2 championship, taking on Buena, looking for their first ever state title. And Buena comes away with a 4-1 win. Bernard's facing Buena got lights out performance by Denny Brady, 11 strikeouts, maybe the best performance of the weekend by a pitcher in a state championship game. 11 Ks in a complete game, 4-hitter. He goes to 10-0 on the season. Brendan Ball was pretty good, but just not as good as Brady was for Buena. But a tough end to the season for Bernard. I keep saying tough end. Losing in the state championship is difficult. You're coming up a game short, but great season overall for Bernard's.
Bernard's probably doesn't get enough respect for what they've accomplished in the last 3 years, Kev. This was their third 20-win season in a row. Last year they won a Somerset County tournament. They've won their division in the Skyland Conference the last 3 years. Jeff Falzarano has built a program that I think anybody in the baseball know respects for how good it is, how accomplished it is. As a Group 2 school, regardless of the result on Saturday, I would put them up against anybody and like their chances. They're a talented team. I mean, Doug Damaris, the catcher, phenomenal. Luke Bowerbank, who's just a highlight reel out in center field. John Ione at second base. J.P. Tantlev, who's had a really great year, a breakout year as a junior shortstop and offensively. Bernard's is legit. Like you said, you lose in a state final. Hey, listen, you lose in a state final, so what? Okay, it stings, and you want to win a state championship, but it doesn't take away from your accomplishments, and it doesn't take away, in my opinion, of your status as one of the best programs in New Jersey.
So Buena comes away with a 4-1 victory. Some crazy offense there at the end. You saw the play of the plate, ball got kicked away. Play at the plate, another one comes screaming in, and Bernard just couldn't get anything more than that one run off, as you said, Denny Brady, maybe the best individual pitching performance of the season, 11 strikeouts of the season, of the weekend, 11 strikeouts, and a 4-hit complete game victory. 10-0 was Denny Brady. So now we go on to the Group 1 final, the small schools, and Shore Regional. Being a Shore guy, you have to be a little excited to see Shore Regional looking for a state championship, taking on Ridgefield in the Group 1 title game. Looking to end a 21-year drought. And you see right there, Shore going to come away with a 7-1 win for the state championship. Just chipped away, runs throughout. James Kelly, RBI double. Sam Perino, an RBI. Matt Corsentino, again, it's all about pitching. Pitches a 4-hitter, 9 Ks, also hits a homer. Just how good of an ending was this for Shore Regional, Greg?
I don't think that the Blue Devils could have dreamed of a better ending. Again, before you talk about the state final, you've got to talk about what they did in the state semifinal, beating Pennsville. Pennsville, depending on who you asked, leading into that game, there were people that would tell you that Pennsville might have been the best team in the state of New Jersey. They were 10 running people left and right. They were averaging over 10 runs a game. Their offense was dynamic. It was imposing. But Matt Corsentino, man, I'm telling you, the kid is wired a little bit differently. He's a competitor. All you got to do is tell him the opposing team's resume, and it probably just lights the fire and stokes it a little bit more. His curveball it's unfair at times, basically. And hitters have a tough time with it. Shore got on a great roll. They played a grueling schedule. Okay, they're in a division with Vianney, RBC, Rumson. I'm probably forgetting other teams that they're in a division with. But the case of it is that those type of teams, they might take their lumps during the regular season, but when they're put into the state tournament against their peers, that's where they thrive. Richfield, let me tell you, Richfield's a good team. They're a really, really good team. And to beat them 7-1, and for Corsentino to do what he did, I felt like it was no disrespect to Richfield. It was just a stamp on how good he.
And we lose Greg there. But again, finishing up Greg's thought, Corsentino pitched a 4-hitter, 9 strikeouts. He also hit a home run, and he provided the best defensive play in the game when he made that diving stop before, and also made a double play there, throw to first. So just a 7-1 win for Shore Regional, knocking off Ridgefield in the Group 1 state championship. And as we said to Greg before, you've got to feel good for Shore Regional coming away with that championship, and Corsentino just getting it done in all 3 facets of the game like he did. And this is it. This is the final out of the game. No, excuse me, it's not the final out of the game. But again, Shore Regional going to win it and claiming one of the 6 state championships this past weekend over in New Jersey. And we have Greg back now on the line. And I know, Greg, it's you're going on Skype, and we're kind of at the sacrifice of technology. But again, Shore Regional still won the game, and they're our 6th and final state champion of the weekend. How do you wrap it up? How do you wrap your brain around the way the weekend went in New Jersey?
I felt like we had a pretty good feel of this thing from the start. I'm not a big fan of the word parody. I'm just not.
Yeah.
But I can't think of any other word to describe it, and I felt like this weekend kind of really justified the use of the word parody. There wasn't that team, that one team. When I'm putting together my top 15, Kev, and I'm seeing teams with 7 losses and 8 losses and 9 losses, those aren't the type of numbers that I'm accustomed to seeing when we're talking about putting together final rankings. Usually your team at the top is like a 30-2 or 29-3 or something like that. So I felt like it was a matter of teams getting hot at the right time, but by the same token, those teams like Jackson and Vianney, although they're going to finish very high in the last poll, they were in the polls during the course of the season. It's not like they just did an abracadabra and snapped their way into it. They had been in it at one point during the year, then they had fallen out for various reasons. Now they're back in it again. Yeah. So I was happy they were both in our poll last week.
Yeah, we're going to find out where St. John Vianney, where Jackson, where they are in the tri-state poll. It's going to be very interesting. You have some explaining to do. We're going to check out, of course, before we let you go, your New Jersey power rankings are online, msgvarsity.com. You can check those out. Greg, thanks. I know it's been tough. This is your final rankings of the season, and there'll be no New Jersey show after this. We're heading for the All-Metro. Thanks for everything you've done, Greg.
Hey, Kev, first of all, I want to thank the guys in the control room, man. The guys behind the scene are what makes this work, and I just want to thank you for being patient with me and my Skype. I want to thank the fans, too. I mean, I love the response I get when I see them. And we do this for them and for the kids, the players, the coaches, everybody. So I just want to thank the baseball community in New Jersey for another great year. It's an honor and a privilege to cover these kids year in and year out.
I agree. Greg, thanks so much. And now on to the poll, where this week's show I considered wearing a brown paper bag over my head. I'd like to thank the teams from New Jersey for really screwing up our poll this week. They did a fantastic job doing that in the state semifinals and finals. Of course, I'm just joking around, but you're going to see a lot of craziness in the next, I don't know, about 2 minutes as we reveal our top 20 poll. And really, it's not just New Jersey. It was really all over the place, and just the movement that we had. We have a new number one for the 4th week in a row. And we have some teams that were not ranked pretty high up, and you're going to see that in just a moment. Let's start now at the bottom of the poll, our bottom 5 teams, starting with their Class A champions from Section 1, Rye High School, 22-4. When you hit the ball the way Rye does, and you get the pitching of George Kirby and Luke Meyerson, you belong in the top 20 in the Tri-State, and Rye is there after being not ranked all season long. Our number 19 team, losers in the state championship, but going to stay right where they are. Number 19 in the poll from New Jersey, that is Mount Olive at 23-7. Entering the poll, 1 win away from a PSAL championship from New York City, and that is our number 18 team is Tottenville at 18-2 in league play. Our number 17 team is a team that just got eliminated last night in the Connecticut State Tournament, Fairfield Ward, so they're staying in the top 20s, most likely going to be pretty short, 1 week. Amity playing for a state championship in Class LL in Connecticut. And number 16, Hunterdon Central, I feel like their season ended a month ago. They're going to stay at the 16th spot, 21-4 on the year. Now to the 15. Team working their way up the rankings has a shot to surge up this weekend in Binghamton, that being Bayport Blue Point, your reigning Class A state champions, peaking at the right time, 19-6. Our number 14 team is Chaminade, another team that hasn't played in a while. Their season's over at 16-5. Your Catholic runner-up in Long Island and Suffolk, Nassau, Suffolk. And number 13 team, still playing in the Catholic League for a New York City championship, is Malloy, 18-3 overall in league play. Number 12 is Westfield from New Jersey. They are 20-4, dropping 6 spots to number 12. And our number 11 team is your champions from the Long Island Catholic League, and that is St. John the Baptist, 23-5, dropping 1 spot. So you saw some movement. You see teams, as you said, it's really difficult now. You don't want to penalize a team because their season's over, and especially a team like St. John the Baptist, who's, I'm sure they've had their graduation already, and a lot of their kids are on their summer break, but they are the number 11 team. They drop a spot. Now we go on to our top 10 team, where the biggest craziness of the season now begins. Number 1 all season long, Seton Hall Prep, dropped to 7. Now they're number 10 in the poll. Now we're number 9 team. Spent a week as a number 1 squad, that being Don Bosco, dropping 4 spots at 19-9 in New Jersey. Number 8, Bergen Catholic vied. They're really a top 3 team all season long, now dropping 5 spots to number 8, 21-5 on the season. Our number 7 team, St. Joseph Regional. They were number 2 last week. They lose in the state championship in the non-public A in New Jersey. They're 24-6. That's how they finish. Number 6, state championship losers in Group 4 in New Jersey. Our former number 1, that being Roxbury, dropping 5 spots. 25-8 is Roxbury. Now we go to the top 5, where we're gonna put some disclaimers on some things. Now our number 5 team, moving up 4 spots, is your Long Island champion, West Islip. They're headed to Binghamton for the state Final Four in Class AA. They are 21-5. Now number 4 is Jackson, your Group 4 public state champions, not ranked. That is not a mistake. They were not ranked last week. They go to number 4 in your poll. Pulled off some big wins. Really, they were like the 21-22. They were on the doorstep last week in New Jersey. And now here they are as number 4 team, 20-7. That's not where it ends. Not ranked last week. Number 3 this week. St. John Vianney's, your non-public A state champions. How are you not going to put your non-public state champions in New Jersey in the poll, in the top 10, even in the top 5? They're number 3 at 20-7. So now you're wondering, who the heck is number 1? Well, number 2 first. That is RC Ketchum from Hudson Valley. They move up 6 spots. A couple big wins over the weekend in regional play. 23-3. They move up 6 spots. Your number 1 team in the poll is Poly Prep. They move up 3 spots, 21-3 in the season. Yes, their season is over. They're 4-time defending independent school champions. Now, Poly Prep is another school that most likely held their graduation, like most private schools. They basically end in like the end of May. And their school students probably out for the summer. They're gonna hear, hey, we're number 1 in the MSU varsity poll. Don't get too comfortable, because we're gonna move some things around if and only if either Ketchum or West Islip win this weekend in the New York State Class AA championship. If one of them wins the state title, we're going to strongly consider where they are. Maybe they're going to be number 1 in the poll. Maybe Polyprep hangs on. Really depends on how they play. I'll be at all the games this weekend in Binghamton, and it's going to be very fun to try and do, and I say fun loosely, very fun to try and do this final poll. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this week's show. I want to thank Russ, Brian, and Bob, Eddie, Dan, and Chris for all the great work they do on the show. Happy Father's Day. Enjoy the baseball. Next week, we're going to put a bow on the entire season. Thanks for watching.